Welcome back. I'm Ted Thomas, and for the past 30 years, I've been involved in tax lien certificates and tax defaulted property. So today we're going to talk about how to find rehab properties. I'm here to assure you there's millions of these properties across the United States. Now, some of them belong to the government, some are foreclosures, some people have just walked away from them, but there's going to be a ton of these properties available. So are you going to have trouble finding them? No. Matter of fact, you're going to have trouble choosing the ones you want. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different places to find these foreclosures, okay? Now, you're not going to have to look very far. There's going to be plenty of them. You know, if a big business like a factory closes down, what's going to happen to that town? Well, all those people are unemployed. They're either going to walk away from their houses, or they're going to end up in foreclosure, or they're not going to take care of the property. So anytime there's a recession in the economy, you're going to have a lot of foreclosures. Anytime you have a big change in the bank rates, you're going to have a lot of foreclosures. So I doubt if anyone hasn't traveled in the United States and seen the areas where the factory closed down and all the businesses around it closed down and everything started to deteriorate. And 2 or 3 years later, you're walking down the street and the papers are flowing in the street. There's trash everywhere and nobody cares. All right, so those neighborhoods are going to be tough to fix up. So you want to find good neighborhoods. So location is always going to be important. What we're talking about is rehabbing a property, buying it right, having a lot of margin, and being able to move forward and make some money out of it. So let's ask ourselves a few questions about this. I'm going to come right back and answer those questions. Now, there's whole sections of the United States that we call Rust Belt America. What would that be? Pittsburgh in the old days was that way. Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. We had Rust Belt all across where businesses have closed down, things have changed, and what happened? All those neighborhoods went to hell. So whole parts of cities get that way, and that's why we have master planning and we rehab those cities. In other words, we bring them back, okay? Now, Rust Belt America is going to be a tough place to do business. If you live there, you better make some real bargains when you buy, because these are not easy properties to fix up. And people still want 50, 70 cents on the dollar for a property. Well, that doesn't leave you a lot of room to fix things up. So I don't know where you are when you're watching this video, but I do know when I learned about tax liens and tax deeds, I never walked away from that business because we're buying for 60, 70, and 80% discounts. All right, so if you're in a place where the economy caved in, just know that it's going to be tougher there than it would be looking at auctions that are coming up at the tax defaulted auction. All right, now there's going to be plenty available. So I mentioned HUD. I haven't mentioned Department of Veterans Affairs. I haven't talked about the Department of Agriculture. I haven't talked about all banks. All banks in every community are foreclosing on property. So you can go to your county, find out when those auctions are, and there'll be plenty of auctions. But keep in mind, at those auctions, the bank is trying to get their money back. So that means they might want 50, 70, 80% of the value of the property. Well, if you're going to fix that up and you put 80% in the purchase price, you're going to have a challenge. Okay, so rehabilitation of properties and communities is important. Now, everybody's got the same idea. You see the property on the left, it needs a little work, and they're going to make it look like the one on the right. Now, we got a lot of examples of those, but the point is that looks easy, takes a lot of labor, takes a lot of time. So you have to think this thing out before you get involved in rehab properties. If you don't have the skill, don't depend on contractors to do it. Number one, if they're not working, why aren't they working? Number two, who knows if they're going to show up when they get the job halfway done? Happens all the time. I watch people buy those properties and they end up going bankrupt. First of all, they spend too much money. So what are we talking about today? Let's learn how to buy rehab properties, but buy them at the absolute best price we can. All right, now think about this. The first neighborhood that you think about is where there's a lot of dogs in the neighborhood. All right, this neighborhood is impossible. If you even look in that neighborhood, you're wasting your time. Why? Because the location is so bad. Fixing one house is not going to fix the neighborhood. So you always buy the neighborhood first, and then you buy the house. You see, you can fix a house, but you can't fix a neighborhood. So there's no fixing this neighborhood. So don't be buying rehab houses. No matter if they give them to you, you don't want them. Why? Because you're going to put your money in. Who's going to move into this neighborhood? There's going to be crime. There's going to be vandals. There's going to be squatters. There's going to be all kinds of property. Now, this neighborhood's already rehabilitated. Now, if you get a house in this neighborhood that someone hasn't taken care of, well, you got a good chance on selling it because it's well maintained. The shrubs are looking okay. Matter of fact, it probably looks too good. But the point is, you need to worry about location if you're going to be involved in rehab properties, Everybody's got the dream in their mind, American dream. Buy a rehab property, paint it, clean it, put a white picket fence, and it's going to be easy as that. Well, I can tell you, everybody that's on television or anywhere else, that's what they're selling, and it's not so easy. It's really hard work. So what happens with cities? The cities have the same problem. They have whole areas of downtown that have just gone bad. The housing is getting worse and worse. They get the wrong people in there. There's people in there that are not taking care of the property, not making payments, not fixing anything up, trash in the streets. That's not going to work. Ultimately, the government, through a master planning process, once they start the master planning process, they will plan to buy all of that land. They'll buy all of it, and they'll rehabilitate it. And what is that called? Well, that's rehabilitation, of course, but the master planning lays it out exactly how they're going to do that. They might come in there with bulldozers. A developer might come in with bulldozers, scrape the land clean, and start all over it. If you've been in a city that's seen that, well, the properties that got sold, many of them got sold at tax auction before they got sold to the city even. So it's an area to look. Then there's other parts of town where property is protected. They want to maintain it as the old section of town, and people rehabilitate it because certain people want to live there. The point is, you need to pay attention to what you're buying. Don't just buy real estate for the sake of buying and hope that it's going to work out. That's like buying some prairie land, and nobody wants prairie land except some place to roam with buffalo and cows. So you have to think about that. So you want to think ahead of time, what are you going to do as an exit strategy with this property? So when they have to rehabilitate whole areas, they first clean it off. You can see the bulldozers there and the heavy equipment moving things around, so they ultimately have a vision of what it's going to be. Now, what does the government do? They come in and clean that property off, and then they more than likely will give it or grant it to a developer. Why does they do that? Because a developer will come in and put high-rise office building. You'll get insurance companies to build large apartment properties. They'll rehabilitate it and make a new downtown, putting in new streets, new everything. So we're talking about buying rehab properties. These guys are talking about rehabbing complete areas of town. You can't do that. So you better make sure that you're looking at the neighborhood. So ultimately, when these things start out like this, what they want it to look like, but this takes 20 years. I'm just talking for 30 seconds, and look how it changed. Well, that isn't what's really going to happen. What you just saw was 25 years go by, because what they did is they cleaned off all the land. Slowly but surely, it came back, and this is what everybody has a vision of. Well, you're not going to be able to do that. So you want to buy a property and make sure you got margin. You want to buy it at the right price. You want to have enough margin to fix it, and you want to have an exit strategy to get rid of it. So let's do that again. You got to buy it at the right price, so you get margin to the selling price, and then when you sell it, you're going to make a nice profit. That's the name of the game. So rehabilitation is not so easy. But if it was properties that look like this, well, now you're talking about paint and clean and do whatever. That's not a big challenge. So those properties are going to get bid up at auction. Now, does every auction get them bid up? No. And that's why I've always liked tax lien and tax defaulted auctions. Why? Because not a lot of people show up in comparison to show up at the foreclosure sales. All right, there's going to be plenty of foreclosures. So let me review that again with you. When we talk about banks lend money all the time. There's always people that get divorced. They decide they're not going to pay for the payment, and the property goes to foreclosure. All right, they aren't necessarily damaged, but they're a little used and abused. Okay, that's what you're looking at here. Used and abused. You can fix that, and if you got the property cheap enough, now you're in business, and that's what you want. How to find them? You're going to have to look. All right, is every deal going to be a good one? No, but you need to know what that roof is going to cost if you have to fix it. What are you going to do to paint it? What are you going to do to fix the inside? If the outside looks bad, I could just about tell you the inside's going to look bad. All right, now many people fail in their mortgages because of what? They're going to end up with divorce. So it takes two couples now to make the payment and grow the family. So if they get divorced, you know that those houses are going to foreclosure. Well, if they've got a 97% loan on it, you're not going to make a good deal. But if they've been in the house 15 years and they've paid it down, now you might have some margin. The whole key is margin. Margin. All right, let's go back and look at properties that you know you're going to be able to find plenty of rehab properties. HUD, H-U-D, that's a division of the government. Okay, they lend money to people. Many of those people have, like I just said, divorce, or they don't get along, or they don't want to make the payments. They walk. So those houses are for sale. Same thing with the Department of Agriculture. Same thing with the Department of Veterans Affairs. There's going to be plenty of those just from the government. All right, but there's a lot of other places you can look for these properties too. Here's what you don't want to do. You do not want to buy junk. Don't even waste your time. Don't even waste it. If someone gives it to you, you don't want it. Why? Because you're going to have to bulldoze it and pay to clean the mess up. So you don't want to get involved. Junk is always going to be junk. You're absolutely wasting your time. Those are not rehab properties. They're junker properties. All right, so what's the big thing that you'd have to pay attention to? The big thing in rehab is location, location, and location. It's a big, big deal, okay? Then, when you do see one, what's it going to cost to fix it up? If you don't have experience, you don't want to get experience in that house. Not if you're making payments, not if you're paying contractors and the rest of it. It takes time to turn a property around. Now, it doesn't take 10 years, but it might take 6 or 9 months. In that 6 or 9 months, what happens? Well, the market changes. What if the market goes down? All right, so let's look again. Where are you going to find rehab properties? All of the things you see on your screen right now are going to be rehab properties. They're going to be able to get you. Regular realtor can do that. Facebook, Zillow, Craigslist. There's plenty available. All right, here's the American dream. It's television. In 28 minutes from the time they start with a not-so-hot property, they turn it into a mansion. How do they do that? Well, they got a pretty girl there talking to you, keeping you busy, while all these contractors are in and out, fixing roofs, knocking down walls, breaking up fireplaces, putting in all new. And the next thing you know, it's a mansion, and young couples giggling, oh, this is a wonderful problem. They did all that in 28 minutes. Folks, that's not going to happen to you, okay? Every seminar that you see in a hotel is going to say the same thing. Buy these properties and turn them around. Not such an easy job. So give it a lot of thought before you buy into that philosophy. Okay, I'm just about to finish up for today. I want you to know that below me is a free gift for all of you. And for those of you that are really going to do this, here's 2 big mistakes that are made at auction. 2 big mistakes are made. I'm going to tell you what those 2 mistakes are right now. Mistake number 1, people don't look at what they're going to buy. And what happens to them? Well, what if the house burned down? What if it was next to a chicken farm? You're getting the idea. So you don't want to buy any property you haven't looked at. The second thing is, it's an auction. Everybody thinks an auction is a good deal. I'm here to tell you every auction isn't a good deal. No way is every auction a good deal. So you need to be careful. You need to know, what is my exit strategy? See, everybody's a buyer. You know, go to Macy's and spend. All right, what are you going to do with what you spend? Well, you're going to wear it so you don't care. All right, well, think about this. Now you're going to buy a house. What are you going to do with it? You better know what your exit strategy is. Otherwise, you're going to buy it. You're going to start fixing it up. And when you buy it, you might have already paid too much because you're just trying to win a property. You don't want to win at the auction. You want to get the property at the right price. Okay, so those are the 2 big mistakes. I'm Ted Thomas, and I'll see you in another video.